about descriptive programming. Okay, so how to use descriptive programming? What is meant by descriptive programming? How to use it, and where to use, and when to use. So there are a lot of questions related to it. Okay, so what is meant by descriptive programming, and then how we can write that, what are all the types we have, and where it is applicable, when it is applicable, right? And the advantages, disadvantages of descriptive programming, each approach. So all this probably we need to discuss, okay, when it comes to the descriptive programming. Okay, first of all, understand what is mean by descriptive programming exactly. What is the descriptive programming? Okay. See, so far, whenever we wanted to deal with any of the object in the script, like okay, I want to enter username in the username field. So I need to deal with username object here. Then how did we do that? First we added that object to the repository. And why we added the object to the repository? To store the information about that object. Normally why we add the object to the repository? To store the information about the object. Okay. And why we need to store the information? Because UFT or QTP, whatever you are using, okay, QTP, should interact with that object again in the application. So if UFT or QTP needs to interact with that object in the application, then it should have some information with it. If UFT doesn't have any information about the object, then it cannot interact with that particular object in the application. Even same thing for you. If you want to interact with any of the person, if I say now, go and call Siva. You should know some information about Siva, like how he will be looking like, right? So what's his name, what's his height, or maybe some properties. Then only you will be able to identify, or you will be able to locate where he is, and then probably you will be able to perform the action. That means some information should be given to you and should be stored somewhere in your mind. Right? Same thing what we do in the repository also. Since okay, we need to interact with any of the objects, we need to perform some actions on those objects. UFT or QTP should need some information about that object, and that information has to be stored somewhere, so that whenever we run the script and whenever we ask to perform some action on one of the objects, first it will see in the repository saying that okay, whether this object is there in the repository, and retrieve the information. If the object is there, it will retrieve the information which is stored in the repository. Then accordingly, it will go to the application and then try to locate the object. That's a process. Normally, so far we have seen. So ultimately, what I am trying to say here is, object repository is used to store the information about the objects, whatever the objects that we need to work with. Okay? Fine. Now, is it necessary to store the information in the repository for every object? Okay? So the question is here, is it mandatory to store the information in the object repository for every object? Or can't we write the automation scripts in UFT? Or can't we ask UFT to locate the object without using the repository? Is object repository only the source for us to store the information? Or is there any way that we can provide the information about the objects to the script? That's what I'm saying here. The question is that object repository only the source for us to store the information about the objects? Or is there any other way we can give the information of the objects to the UFT? Of course, there is one more way. It is not mandatory that every time we need to store that information in the repository and use that in the script. It's not like that. It's not mandatory. We have one more way called descriptive programming here. So when it is here, descriptive programming in a sense, Instead of storing the information in the repository, we provide the same information, whatever EFT requires to locate an object, to identify an object, whatever the information that we want to give to the EFT about particular object. So instead of storing that information in the repository, we directly provide the information in the script itself. When I am asking EFT to perform action on certain object, then while explaining or while telling the method, at the same time I will give the information about the object. The script itself, I will provide the information saying that so the object will be looking like this and go and perform the action on this object. So information I am directly giving in the script. This is called descriptive programming. So what I need to say here is descriptive programming is nothing but handling the objects or providing the information of the object directly in the script without using object repository. Okay? Got what I am saying here? So it's a simple way. Normally what we do is okay, the same action, go and call Siva. So the first thing that what we can do is, I will introduce him to you. First, okay, I will introduce him to you. When I introduce him to you, you will store some information of that particular object in your mind. You will capture the information and store it in your mind. Right? And when I say method like go and call him, then first you will recall the information which is stored in your mind. Accordingly, you will check. Right? You go and call him. You will look at that person and then call him. Right? So what I am doing now, first, okay, I am introducing that person to you and I am feeding that information into your mind first and then I am telling the method. So I can tell in one place, two places or three places, I can tell n number of times so that you will be able to recall that. No problem. This is object repository approach. But this time, what I will do is, I will not introduce him to you. I will not introduce that person to you. What I will do here, you don't know who he is. You never met him and you never seen him as of now. Okay, but I will just tell that person will be so and so place. And then by explaining that one called Siva, and since you have never met Siva, what I will do is, while explaining this method to you, I will give the properties. Okay, Siva, go and call the person, name Siva, okay, and his height is so and so, and he is from so and so location. So while telling that method, I am telling you the information and I am giving you the method, what method needs to be executed. Then you will go and execute. So what I am doing now, method and the information I am giving, or the information about the person and action to be performed. Both I am doing at the same time. I am not feeding it in your mind now. Temporarily I am giving that information. Because you don't need to interact with that person every time. This is only temporary purpose. Only for this execution. Like that. So this is descriptive programming. So that means EFT might not have met that object, so that our EFT did not take any information about that object and did not store the information in the repository. So in this case, what we do is we directly provide the information in the action about the object. So this is what exactly descriptive programming is, handling the object. Then in the reality, which one we use most or which one is most suggested? The descriptive or repository? It's not just about descriptive. Each one has got its drawbacks or advantages. Now, with the approach in descriptive programming, what I am doing now is I am going to call him. I am explaining the method and I am giving you the information to it. So descriptive. I am not feeding that information to your mind. You will not store that information in your mind. Only to execute this method while during execution itself, you will use those methods and perform the action. Once that action is performed on that object and once you move to the next line, you will forget about it. So only during runtime you will capture that information, go and perform, and once that step is executed or execution is completed, you will forget that. You will not take that information to the next line also. Right? Okay. Now, by taking this, now assume that in one test I have given that information and you need to solve it. Today, tomorrow, or probably, in another test, in another scenario, again you need to perform one more action on the same person. So the same person is then repeated in different times or different situations. So since I did not feel that information in your mind, what I told, temporarily I told that information, and once that action is performed, you forgot about that particular object totally, completely forgot about that as soon as you move to the next. So what should I do? If the same person has come again in one more situation, again I need to tell the information about that person. So if the same person is repeated multiple times, every time I need to provide the information to you. Right? So it will take some, effort, right? Again, it will take some effort. Giving us information about the object again and again. This is one of the drawbacks, not completely with the descriptive programming, but a normal approach of the descriptive programming what we call. But in this case now, since that person is keep repeating in different situations, what I do, okay, I will give you the information now, keep storing it in your mind. Next time whenever I say about that person, I will retrieve the information automatically and go on with it. What I do? So since that object is keep repeating in different situations, it is better you store it in your mind and then use it. Instead of asking for the information every time. So what I mean to say here, if the object is repeated in different situations or in different places, it is better you store it in a repository, shared repository, and use that object. So that you don't need to ask the user to provide the information every time. But if you are going to meet that person only once, if you meet that, then you are not going to meet him again. Only one time meeting. So in that case, you don't need to store it in your mind. You can just take the information what I provide, perform that step, and you can forget it. Right? So this is, in case if that object is not repeated, object is coming only once, if you still store the information in your mind will become exhausted. Right? Like object is repeating multiple times and all, fine, because you can store it in your mind because every time I need to interact with that person, I need to remember that. So you have to store that information. But if you say that no, that person, okay, if I perform now that action, then I am not going to meet him again. So this is the first time, this is the last time that I am going to meet him. In the case, if you still store information about him in your mind, what happens? Then your mind, the storage or the data in your mind will become huge and then your performance will come down automatically. Right? It is not good to store the information in the mind. So if that object is not repetitive, comes only once, it is good to go with descriptive programming. So which one we follow? Most of the times we follow both approaches, descriptive and repository approaches. But not only these two, there are some other situations where you need to switch from repository to descriptive to repository. So we follow the hybrid approach when we are maintaining the objects. We follow repository and we follow descriptive. In one script, you can do both. Some objects can be dealt with the descriptive programming. Some objects can be stored in repository and then you can deal. That's what I'm saying here. Okay. So now we know, not completely, but at least one situation where we can use scripts. Right? So one is descriptive is nothing but handling the objects in script itself, not storing in repository. And normally descriptive programming is used when objects are not repeated from its only function. But not only there are some more situations. Slowly we will get that. Okay. Now, when it comes to the descriptive programming, there are two types of descriptive programming we have here. One is static descriptive, we call it as. Second one is dynamic descriptive. One is static descriptive, second one is dynamic descriptive. So static descriptive also called as inline descriptive programming. Static or inline, both are same. Dynamic has got only one thing. First write out what is descriptive programming. The descriptive programming is nothing but handling the objects directly in the script instead of storing them in the repository. Storing in the repository. Two types of descriptive programming available. One is inline or static. Second one is dynamic descriptive. Okay? Right. So as I told, normally we can use both. In one script itself, we can use both. And even one line also, we can use both. In single line, in the script, we can use both the repository and descriptive. At the same time, in single line itself, we can use both repository and descriptive. So in one line, we can manage one object in descriptive, one object in repository. But when you are doing this, remember, write down a small note below. Okay. So we can manage both, or we can use both the repository and descriptive in a single line. Okay. And write down below. When you are using a single line, right? If the parent object is stored in repository, child object can be in the repository or in descriptive program. Okay. If the parent is in descriptive programming, child must be in descriptive. You got what I am saying here? If parent object is in repository, child can store it in repository, or you can manage that in descriptive programming. But if the parent itself is defined in descriptive programming, child should be or mandated to be in descriptive. Okay, so this is one rule when you are following both repository and descriptive programming. So in single line that you can follow both, but when you are following in single line, then if your only parents can be in repository, either all can be in repository or parents can be in repository. Okay. So if the parent is in repository, child not mandated to be in descriptive, it can be in repository or descriptive. If the parent is in repository. If the parent is in descriptive, then child must be mandatorily should be in descriptive. Okay? Fine. Now, let's understand how normally we will write the descriptive program. It's very simple. Now, just open object repository here. Okay, just let me open that object repository. Okay. Now, I have stored the browser object here. Right? So, I am using browser object here. How I will write this script now when I say browser, and let me associate that. You must have the what is that? Right? Now what I will do here in the script, I will just mention the logical name of that particular object in the script. When I mention the logical name here, what it does exactly, it will go to this class of object in the repository, see whether is there any object with this class, browser class here, browser class it is. Is there any object with the browser class in the repository with the logical name whatever I have given. So if there is any browser class of object with the logical name what I have provided, it will go to this object, takes the information whatever we have provided. What properties we have provided here? Two properties. One is name we have provided and second one is creation type we have provided. Right? So it will take this information and go to the application. Goes to the application. Try to identify one object, one browser with these two properties. So what it is doing? From script, it is going to the repository and gets the information. Based on the information it has got from repository, it goes to the application and tries to identify. So there is three layers here. Three layers total. Your script, repository and the application. Script to repository, repository to application. That's how it is going. Okay. So this takes little time because there is one more layer, three layers. But now, instead of storing that information, instead of connecting from script to repository and take the information and go to the application, whatever the information I provided in the repository, what I will ask myself is, okay, you need to go to the repository and give me the information, whatever the information I want to store there, instead of storing it in the repository, I will directly provide the information to you in the script itself. From script to application, you directly connect. That's it. That's how we can tell now in descriptive programming. Now, what I will do is assume that I am not using any object repository. Okay, I have not associated any object repository. But still I need to deal with the objects. Then what I will do is, okay, we need to give the logical name here. We will give the logical name. Just write the class. And now instead of writing the logical name, what you can do is now inside the class is provide the information of the object. Don't give the logical name, you have to give the information after writing the class. How do you do that? By providing what property it has to use to identify the browser and what is the value it has to use. So you have to specify property and value now. How do you do that? Say browser or what is the property we are using? Name. Write the property. equal to. See how I am writing equal to. I am not writing equal to directly, colon equal to. That is how property and value have to be separated both. A property colon equal to property value. Orange, HR. It's not case sensitive. Property value is not case sensitive. You can give any case, no problem. That object is defined in descriptive mode. What I am doing now? I am giving the class of object. Inside that I am giving the information. Browser of which browser name equals to browser. So that means inside brackets you are giving the properties and values. First you are writing class. Inside brackets if you provide the property and value, that is descriptive. Now, as soon as it finds colon equal to, then immediately it will think that okay, user is not using the repository, user has given the information here itself. When it finds colon equal to, that's how property and value have to be separated. If you say directly equal to, this is wrong, this is not descriptive. So when you are writing descriptive, when you are providing property and value, it has to be like name. Sorry, not only name property, you can use any other properties. You see, for other objects, we are using different properties also. For browser, we might be using name. Name, orange, HRM. So, now what I am trying to say here is, identify a browser which has got name property value as orange, HRM. So, what class of object it is, what property and what value it has to use, everything I am telling in the script. That is descriptive. Okay, that is inline. That means in the same line, wherever I have written the class and wherever I am writing the method, in the same line I am writing the properties also. That is inline descriptive. Next, what is the next object in the hierarchy? Page. Okay, so now browser dot page. For page, which property we can use? Normally for page object we use title property. Okay, we use something called title property. For browser, most of the times we use name property and creation type property. Okay, you can write them in a separate section. Properties, most preferred properties. Most preferred properties. To separate this. This is not related to only descriptive. This is related to oral. So for browser, we can use name property and with the combination creation type. For browser, we can use name property with the combination creation type. Okay. For page, we use title property. Page we use title property. Okay. And remember one thing here. The title of the page sometimes will be keep changing. And even browser also, name also will be changing. Depends on the navigation, depends on the page that, the screen that you have opened. Whenever the navigation happens, title may be changing every time. And even here the browser name is not changing, but later we are going to open one more application and then we can easily understand it. But I don't want to go too complex now. But title will be keep changing, just assume that. As I told earlier, when we are using a repository, when we are adding objects to the repository, at a time, only one page object will be there in the browser. At a time, only one page. The possibility is only one page. There is no possibility that two pages can be there or more than one page can be there in one browser. At a time, only one page. But within the same browser, navigations will be changing. Okay, when it is navigated to another page, then only that page will be there. Previous page will be uploaded and only new page will be there. So that means at a time only one page can be there in one browser. If you say that the multiple tabs, but multiple tabs are not multiple pages. When a browser or when Chrome has got 5 tabs, it is 5 browsers, not 5 pages. 5 different browser objects those are. But inside browser only one page will be there at a time. So since there is only one page at a time, we don't need to use many properties, so we don't use any property much. But in descriptive programming, at least one property needs to be used. Okay, at least one property. But if you remember, when we have stored that object in the repository, page object, we have not used any property here. You see, only by using just class name we are using this, right? But in descriptive programming, minimum one property has to be provided. So we prefer to title. But as I told, this title will be changing from navigation to navigation. Title will be keep changing. That's the reason what we do is, instead of, still I am using title property, instead of giving some title there, what I will do is, title equals to dot star dot. What is mean by dot star dot? Anything. In the regular expression, dot star dot means so dot star. Anything. So in that Orange HRM browser, a page with any title. That's what it is. So only one page will be there at a time. So the page title, whatever the page is displayed, title can be anything. I don't mind about the title. Take anything, no problem. Okay? Getting right what I am saying here. So now when I am writing here, I am writing regular expression for the property, title property. I am using regular expression to identify the object. Remember one thing, when you are using object repository, if you want to use the regular expression, you have to specify to the UFP saying that I am using regular expression. How do you do that? So when we use the regular expression, how did we do that? For some of the objects we have added, right? Say welcome. How did we do that? In the property value, we have to select this checkbox, regular expression checkbox. Then you have to write the pattern. Then only it can understand that you are using regular expression. Otherwise, it cannot understand that. When you are using repository. In the repository, for a property value, by default, regular expression option is not enabled. You have to manually go and check the checkbox. Then only it can understand that, okay, you are using regular expression. Okay, remember. But in descriptive programming, I am nowhere specifying that I am using regular expression. Am I specifying anywhere? No, I have directly written the pattern there. So remember that in descriptive programming, regular expressions option will be automatically enabled. You don't need to specify that you are using regular expression. You don't need to specify that you are using regular expression. As soon as it finds any wild character, like dot, star, or question mark, or parenthesis, normal bracket in the property value, or square bracket, right, or icon. So all these are some patterns. Right? Some wild, we call it as wild character, each one. Special character that we call it as a wild character. In a property value, as soon as it finds any of these characters, special character, it will automatically treat that character as a pattern. You don't need to specify that you are using regular expression pattern there. As soon as it finds any character like that in the value property value, it will automatically take it as a pattern, regular expression pattern. You don't need to specify that I'm using regular expression here, then it will automatically take. Okay, that's one thing that you need to understand or you need to remember. In object repository, you must have to specify that you are using a regular expression, whereas in descriptive programming, you don't need to specify that you are using regular expression. You can directly write the pattern. Okay. So browser dot page. So how to define the page object. Dot. Next, what object it is? We need to enter the username, right? Then it is web edit class. Remember, you need to write type class manually. So web edit class. Then what property that we have used? We were using HTML ID property. So write that property name. HTML ID, even space will be there between HTML and ID. Colon equal to text username. This is the property value. So what I am doing now, I am saying in the hierarchy, first I am saying browser and while I am asking to identify the browser object, then I am giving the properties and values in the same line. Similarly for page also. Similarly for web edit. For every object I am giving the property and value directly in the script. I am not storing any information in the repository here. So that repository, whatever we created yesterday, forget that. We are not using it. Then you can tell the method. So set. Give it as article. Now let's see whether it will work or not. Okay. Fine. So the browser is open now. Right? It's working. So did I use object repository there? You are not used. How did we use that? Every information, like okay, first hierarchy. In each hierarchy, parent object information and child object information. Every object information is given in script itself. Information about the object is nothing but properties and values of the object. That is the information repository. So that is inline descriptive. What we have written is inline. What is meant by inline? See, properties, okay, all the information of the object, every object information is directly giving in the, or we are directly giving in the same line wherever we have written the method. Okay? So if you are providing the information about the object in the same line where you are writing the method, then that is called as inline descriptive. Now, see here how the browser object is defined in descriptive, right? Browser is a parent here. If browser object is defined in descriptive programming, browser object is defined in descriptive programming, the page and remaining objects must be in descriptive programming only. Now, if we say that no, okay, only browser object I will store it in I will write in descriptive programming. Page object I will store in object repository and I will use. Browser object I will write it in descriptive programming, but page object I will store it in repository and I will use here. Can I do that? Obviously no, you will not be able to do it. If the browser object is defined in the descriptive programming, child is page. Page must be in descriptive programming only. You cannot store page object in repository and use it. Or if the page is in descriptive programming, obviously that web ID inside the page must be in descriptive programming. You will not be able to store that web ID in repository and use it. So that's what I mean to say. If the parent object is in descriptive programming, child object must be in descriptive programming. You don't have a second way, or you don't have any second option available. Or other way is, now we can say like, okay, browser I will store it in object repository. Because same browser I need to deal with the different places. Okay, browser object I will store it in repository. Then I will write the logical name there. Instead of giving property and value directly, I will provide the logical name, whatever the name I have mentioned in the repository. Okay, fine. Now assume that I have written logical name like this. This is how we have written. Now browser I am taking from object repository. Can I write page in descriptive programming? Fine. You have two options now. Either store page in the repository and use the logical name here. Fine, it will work. Or page you can write it in descriptive programming. So parent is in descriptive programming now. Sorry, parent is in repository now. And then child of the parent can be in descriptive programming or can be stored in repository. Either way. You have two options. Of course. No, not mandatory. A test object, I am told that the object which is stored in repository. Not only that. That time we did not discuss about descriptive program. A test object is nothing but the object which is defined in the repository or defined in the descriptive program. So you can still use TO property in descriptive programming also. It's not mandated to be in the repository. Okay? You can write. Fine. But what I'm saying here, so how the descriptive will do it? So descriptive programming is nothing but we are writing the property and the value directly in the descriptive, in the script itself. So that is inline descriptive. Let me do one thing. Let me go with the pure descriptive. Okay, it's working. Fine. Now, okay. So will it work now? You know what I did? What did I do? I opened second browser, say HRM browser only. Now name of the browser is same for both browsers. Name is same for both the browsers. There are two browsers with the same name on So now if I run the script, it will work or it will not work. It will not work. The reason because there are two browsers with the same name. When I say name HRM, when I use this name HRM, it is trying to locate that object in the script, in the application, system or on the desktop because it's a browser directly on the desktop. Then there are two browsers opened with the same name. Then it is throwing the error saying that cannot identify the parent browser. Verify that parent property is matched with the object which is displayed in your application. So that means it is not able to locate the object. The reason is, or the reason could be here, maybe no browser with that name or more browsers with the same name. Then what should I do now? Okay, so we can use something called ordinal identifier here, identified. If more than one object is being identified with the properties whatever we have given, we can use ordinal identifier like index, location, or creation time, something like that. So what I can say now to my script is, okay, browser name must be RHRM, and if more are there, first open browser. So I have to use second property. Two properties I need to use here. So far we are using only one property. How can I use second property? Simple. Go to that object. Once you have written the first property and value, say comma. Each property and value will be separated by comma. Every property and value will be written in one double quote. Okay. So now name RHRM, use name property, comma. Say creation time, no space. Many of the people do this mistake. They will write creation space time. Okay. So you should not write the space there. Creation time equals to 0. What does it mean? Yeah, first RHRM browser. It's not first open browser. First RHRM browser. That's what. So you can use multiple properties like this. Okay. Now assume that for web edit we are using HTML ID as well as HTML tag also. Then we can say like this. HTML tag equal to input. Two properties are there. In case if you want, you can use more properties, no problem. But every property is separated by comma. And remember one thing, in descriptive programming, you can use only mandatory properties and ordinal identifier. There is nothing like smart identification. There is nothing like assistive properties in descriptive programming. Okay, so in descriptive programming, all properties are mandatory, and also you can use ordinal identifier combination if you want. If you say that no, this is assistive property, use this only when more than one object is identified. No, that option is not available. All properties are mandatory, and then in case if you feel that maybe these properties may not help me to identify the object uniquely, whatever the properties are given here, more than one object has got this value. In such case, we use the combination of mandatory properties and ordinal identifier. That is the only combination that is available. You cannot say optional, assistive properties. We cannot use smart identification in the descriptive programming. Okay, remember, every property is a mandatory there. It has to match. If any property mismatches, then it will not identify the object. Every property should be matched with the object in the application. Okay. Now, earlier it was showing the error that the browser was not identified. Now, let's see whether it will work or not. This one is the same script again. Look at that. First, open browser. So that's what inline descriptive means for. So similarly here. I want to enter. I want to enter password. Again, same browser I need to use. Same browser and same page object I need to use here. But only thing is password object will be changed. But how I have defined that browser object and page object? Inline, right? As I told, when you write inline descriptive, only for that particular line that information will be available. As soon as that line is executed, UFT or QTP will forget that particular object. Okay, it will not store that information. Only for that particular line, that information will be considered. As soon as it moves to the next line, then that information will be it will forget the information in the next line. Okay. Again, what I have to do when I want to say the password, To enter the password, again I need to define that. Browser name equals to orange href, comma, creation time equal to 0, dot page title. See how much time it takes for me, defining the same object again and again. Every time I need to keep defining the same object. That is the drawback of using inline descriptive programming. If that object is not repeated, see now that web-edit username will not repeat. Only when I enter the username, that time only that object comes. That will not, I don't need to use that object again one more time. So if I define that inline, that is okay. Because I don't need to provide that object information every time. Only for one step, I need that information. In the next step or remaining steps, I don't need to use that object information. I don't want that. But now, when I use browser object and page, not only browser and page, there are some objects like save button, add button and all are keep coming in different places. Not only one place, and they are keep coming in different places. What should I do now? Okay, if it is browser and page object, that is okay. What I can do is, instead of rewriting again and again, we have one option like this. We can do like this, set page, and then O page you can keep using. We can do that. We can still do that. Here also with this option, we can still do that. Okay. So we can use this way. In case if you say that no, browser and page are keep repeating, we can do that. But remaining objects like save button, add button, search button, or delete button, you have many things here. All these are keep coming in different places. How can I provide that information in every time whenever that object comes? That is taking a lot of time for me. It is wasting a lot of time in writing the script. But I don't want to use object repository at all. I don't want to use object repository. I still want to go with only descriptive programming, but those objects are repeating multiple times. Then how can I manage that? Instead of providing the same information again and again in the script, only I want to give information only once, and then every time I want to use the same information. I don't want to give every time. Then what should be done in this case? Okay. So just wait for some time. You are by it. Let me complete this and then I'll come back to that. HTML tag. Then you can say input comma HTML ID. You can say as txt password dot set. You can say okay. So now the assume that these objects are repeated multiple times. So in such case, what you do is don't provide the object properties and values directly in the line. Don't provide the object information directly in the line. What should I do instead of providing that information in the line? Do a thing. Create one variable. Create one variable with object type, but not any object type. There is something called description object. Okay? So create one description object and assign the description object to your variable, and whatever the information that you want to use to identify the object, provide that information to the description object. What I am saying, whatever the information you want to use to identify the object, provide that information to the description object. Then wherever that object comes, wherever you need to use that information, you don't need to write that information every time. Since you have assigned the description object to your variable, right? Use that variable. So whenever you use the variable in your program, the information will be automatically imported every time. Got what I am saying now? So what you are doing now, instead of giving the information in the same line every time, in the beginning itself, You create one description object and store it in one variable and provide the information to that description object, nothing but that variable now. The variable will not become a descriptive object now. Description object. So whenever you need to use that information, whenever you need to use that object information, you don't need to write that object information in your script again. What you can do? You can use that variable. That's it. When you use that variable, that information will be automatically input. This is dynamic descriptive. So what we do in the dynamic descriptive, first of all, we create the description object, we provide the information there. So whenever I want to use the same properties and values, I don't need to type them again. I will just use that particular description object. That's it. Then, how can I do that? Did you write inline descriptive? Write inline descriptive. I told about two types, right? Inline. So, yeah, inline descriptive or static descriptive means, static descriptive means we write the information of the object. Okay, so in the bracket you can say properties and values. Information is nothing but properties and values. We write the information of the object directly in the line where we are giving the method. So directly in the line where the method has been used or method has been given. Wherever the method has been given. Method has been. Okay. Write a note below advantage. Will not use too much of memory, as memory will be released for or the information will be removed for every line once the line is executed. Will not use too much of memory. Will not use too much of memory, as after executing the line, UFT clears the UFT after executing the line, UFT clears the information. Clears the information of the object after executing the line, UFT clears the information of the object from the memory. This makes execution a little faster. So this is advantage with inline. Disadvantage. If the object is repeated, we need to provide the information of the object every time. We need to provide the information of the object every time. As UFT forgets the object once the line is executed. As UFT forgets the object once the line is executed. This consumes time in writing the script. descriptive type this conjures type in writing scripts. Writing scripts. Okay. Next, just write down another note, but this is not related to inline or dynamic, related to descriptive. In the descriptive programming, regular expressions option by default enabled. Regular expressions option by default enabled. So, whenever we write a while character in the value property value, whenever we write a while character in the property value, it will automatically take that as a regular expression. It will automatically take it as regular expression. Right. Okay. So now let's see dynamic descriptive, how exactly it will be. As I told, when you use dynamic descriptive, first we create a description object. Okay. First write down what is dynamic descriptive. In dynamic descriptive programming, we define a description object. We define a description object. In the brackets, you can say test object. Normally, description object also called as a test object. Other name we call it as descriptive object or description object. Both are same. A descriptive or description object, nothing but test object. So, we define the description object or test object or descriptive object. Okay, and store the information. Nothing but properties and values in the descriptive object. And whenever we need to use the information to identify an object, we can directly use the object here. Whenever we need to use the information to identify a runtime object, nothing but object in application. Information to identify a runtime object. We can use this description object. We can use this description object instead of writing the properties and values again and again. So, writing the properties and values again and again. Okay. Now, let's say now assume that okay, so the browser object is keep having again and again. And as I told, we have something called set option, and you can assign that object to the variable and then you can use it. But I want to go with the dynamic descriptive for that particular browser instead of writing that property and value everything. In this case, what you do is write the next creating a description object. Creating a description object. To create a description object, we use the method called description.create. Method name is description.create. So what I am doing here, I have created the description object by using description.create. I just created the description object and I stored it in a variable. So I have just used the variable as O browser. So you can use any variable name there, but the method name is description.create. Now that O browser will become one object there. Now whatever the information that you want to use, provide that information to O browser. So next time whenever you want to use the information, you don't need to write name, properties, all those properties. You can just call that O browser. Now, what is the information that we are using to identify the browser? Name is one property and the creation type, two properties we are using. Then what we do is here, browser say O browser of property name dot value. This is how you provide the information. O browser for the variable, whatever variable you have used to store the description object. The description object of property name dot value. That means giving this property name dot value. So you are giving the value for that particular property equal to orange picture. So you give the property name and value. And one more property also you are using, right? What is that? Creation time. 0. Same information, just use stored here. Now next time, whenever you want to use the browser, you don't need to write everything, that information. What you can do? Call that particular object here. So if you want to use that one more time, call that here. So whenever I want to use that, okay, RSHR browser now, then I don't need to write name and the creation time or some other properties every time whenever I want or I need. So what I can do, since that all this information, whatever we are using to identify the browser, all this information is stored in O browser. So next time whenever you want to use that information, just use as O browser. That is dynamic. So what I am doing now, I am not directly providing the object information in the same line wherever I am using the method. First, I am storing that information in one description object, and whenever I want to use it, I am calling the description object here. That is dynamic descriptive. But not only this, there are various advantages or there are various purposes of dynamic descriptive. Okay, not only this, and we use dynamic descriptive in a different way, not in the same way I told. There are some more purposes also. Okay. So we will stop here today, and tomorrow we will discuss about it.